Good day, all. My name is Robert Savino, and as George mentioned, I'm a trustee here at the Walt Whitman Birthplace. I greet you today on behalf of our Executive Director, Cynthia Shaw, and the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association, and welcome you to the sixth series of Season 2's Triangulation Journey, Poets Building Bridges. Poets Building Bridges is produced by Poetrybay Productions for Walt Whitman Birthplace and led by George Wallace, who is the poet in residence and has been for 13 years here. The Birthplace offers a number of events during the year, both on Zoom and in person, and I recommend that you check us out at our website, waltwhitman.org. I thank all the performers and followers who joined us today. I thank Heather for manning the technical desk at the Birthplace. And of course, I thank George for his continuance of this program, his continuance of support to the Walt Whitman Birthplace, and his continuance for poetry all over. And now, poets and friends, I pass the program over to your host, George Wallace.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Robert Savino. I'd like to welcome all of you here in the Zoom as participants in this triangulation session, Poets Building Bridges, and our guests and visitors here to listen in today to this program, which is brought to you by the Walt Whitman Birthplace. And I want to thank the Walt Whitman Birthplace for taking this on in Season 2 as the host for the entire year. Because I can tell you, those of you who were with Season 1, which really was just the month of March in 2022, when we invented this triangulation thing, we had a different host every week, every Saturday, and it was really inventing the wheel. It was quite complicated. So I do appreciate the Walt Whitman Birthplace stepping in and taking this on so that we've got all the wrinkles ironed out of the process. So thanks to the Walt Whitman Birthplace. Thank you, Robert. Thank you to Heather, who is behind the scenes today, putting the engineering together for this show. As I say, this triangulation project, we conceived of it in March of 2022 to coincide with World Poetry Day, somewhere in March, and built it up into having 4 sessions and made it for a whole month, and realized the potential in it. And the feedback was so good that we decided to start a Season 2. And this Season 2 is a monthly affair, as you probably know, usually the first Saturday or the second Saturday of each month at high noon Eastern Standard Time, New York, to accommodate people that might be from as far distant as Korea in one direction, India in another direction, to find a kind of split the middle and find a time that most people could reasonably be part of it. So I appreciate those of you who are coming in from distances and different time zones today. The concept of the Triangulation Project is that rather than just have a random group of poets who've picked from no particular rhyme or reason from places anywhere around the world, to build it up as small groups of poets that represent a constituency or community of poets to some extent. Whether it's in St. Louis, where we have people from St. Louis today, Erie, Pennsylvania today, or a diaspora, which we have today, people from South Asia who are in California or Washington, D.C., or here in New York. And by doing that, it becomes more of a structured process of getting to know each other and finding resonances within our own community and across communities. So I encourage you to listen and learn from each other, talk back channel to each other, and make whatever networking you can out of this experience. So with that, I'm going to introduce the first of our 3 group, called PAIR, who will introduce his people to you for today's session. And that is Chuck Joy, the poet laureate, or former poet laureate, I'm not sure, but I think poet laureate, former poet laureate of Erie, Pennsylvania. I knew him when he was just Chuck from Fredonia, but having gone to Erie a couple of times and had him drop in on us any number of times here in New York for our many Zoom sessions during this pandemic problem situation. we've come to regard Chuck as a big friend to ours here at the Walt Whitman Birthplace. So without further ado, I welcome Chuck Joy from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Thank you, George. I'm excited to be here. This is a terrific project, and I'm thrilled to be able to join from Erie, Pennsylvania. And with me, Mark Borczon will conclude, and Matt Borczon will follow me. Twin brother poets, very distinct. And before I turn it over to Matt, I'd like to read 3 poems of my own. In the spirit of the geographical, cultural focus of these triangulation projects, I wanted to bring a poem that reflected the culture of my region, Western Pennsylvania. So this poem is from this collection, published in India, Nirala Publications, called Said the Growling Dog. The name of the poem is Sex Machine. What you don't know, unless you live in Pennsylvania, maintain a permanent residence, and maybe in Jefferson County, is why we love the groundhog so. Here's why. He's a sex machine. That cuddly lump of brown fluff, he's a freak. He can't get enough. Our fertility god, the groundhog, our icon of love. Every time we see him, we Pennsylvanians, we lick our chops. Fireworks start going off. We feel like dancing. The groundhog stands for sex, intimacy, adult behavior, getting lucky, the overflow of love into loving, the way our rivers overflow our valleys with a flood. So, anytime you see the groundhog on TV participating in his big day, or advertising the lottery, or even in person scuttling his plump butt across whatever lane you're traversing or field you're crossing, do what Pennsylvanians do when we see the groundhog. Think about love. Thank you. Yes, the groundhog is a part of our culture here in Western Pennsylvania and other places as well. And my second poem here has 2 functions. The first is to continue along this theme of geographical culture, a little more Erie-centered, and also at the same time acknowledge our host and creator of both of these series of Poets Building Bridges. So here we go. This poem is called Pennsylvania's Riviera, after George Wallace. This coast softer, backed by forest, cliffs at best a bluff, cleared for small farms, vineyards spilling toward the sunset. Shoreside, narrow concrete highway, vintage white and red convertible top down, woman at the wheel, red scarf and loud music trailing her toward the city. It's cafe neighborhood, crowded sidewalks clustered around a bay, wooden storefronts, patios, umbrellas over tables, servers in striped shirts delivering beers on trays, barkers hawking boat rides, one guy, fist to chin, leaning on a railing. Thank you. Pennsylvania's Riviera, after George Wallace. And to conclude, I'd like to read a poem. I'd like to close with the opener of this next collection. This is a new book of mine from What Why Aesthetics called Vinyl. And I'd like to read the first poem in the book, sort of an introduction at the end of my part. It's called Linearity. These lines, my characters, I set them up, put them in motion. They say what they want to say. Each line responsible for their own small turn, their special moment on the stage of this page. One line providing a premise, an observation delivered full throat. Their costume might even resemble my clothing. Another line mostly drum solo, not even a costume or maybe just jeans. Lines can establish location, working together, a team. One line, distant snowy mountains. Another line, frothing surf, rocky coast. Lines speak their own voices. Sometimes they say one thing and mean another. Often they sing, if only a little. If you listen closely, you may feel the lines dance. I try saving the best for last. I tell the last line, make me laugh. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, George. Thank you to Robert and Walt and his birthplace. Now I have the distinct privilege of passing the talking stick to the next poet, Matt Borczon. I believe is a native of Erie, Pennsylvania, and he writes wonderful poetry, which many of you may have encountered. A well-published poet, also active in the community and elsewhere, multi-talented. I'll let him take it over from here. Matt, welcome.
Thanks, good morning, folks. Little housekeeping. I am reading from a house of 3 children, 2 dogs, a couple of cats. At any time, anything might walk right across this screen or bark in the background. I'll apologize for that now. But it is a Saturday morning and there's lots going on here. So let me just start my timer. Yes, I am timing myself so I don't go too long. For you guys that don't know, I am a retired United States Navy sailor, so I sometimes have to impose a little order. It's just the way I work. So, but I'm going to read today a little bit from a book of mine called Saved Rounds. It's a little bit about my experiences in and around the war. September 2010. On the plane into Afghanistan, we all pretend we are only afraid of flying. Some of these are pretty short. This is the title of this poem of the book. This is called Saved Rounds. At the end of the group therapy session, the leader would always ask for any saved rounds, which we thought was funny since we knew he never served. What he meant was, were there any issues left to address? Any pain still not examined? Any nightmares not popped open like a can of tuna? Anyone going home to beat their wife, drink too much, or maybe slit a wrist? Anything you still want to solve in the remaining 3 minutes? Most days, no one says anything, and we take our saved round home to be used later, maybe on our families, mostly just on ourselves. This is just a poem called Stuff I Think About. In Afghanistan, I used to have to walk guard duty along the fence and search the overflow tent hospital, all without a gun. And all these years later, I am still not sure what bothers me more, how much I believed I needed that gun for safety then, or that I still believe I need a gun for safety now, or that before the war, I never thought I needed a gun at all. Thank you. It's called The Last Poem. The last poem of mine my wife read was about PTSD and pain. I wrote about feeling like I was drowning and dragging her and the kids down with me. She wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me tenderly on my head and said, "You always forget how well I swim." Oh, thanks. So in Afghanistan and in the United States, I belong to the Bethesda Naval Hospital. So one of the first jobs I had when I was taking care of guys coming back, when you get hurt in the war, they usually take you from a Role 3 combat hospital where I was in Helmand province to Germany, then back to the Bethesda Naval Hospital. So during the Iraq War, before I was there. I was taking care of a lot of guys. I was on a ward of guys that had a lot of amputations, and I wrote a collection of poems about them. I'm gonna read a couple of them. Here's a sort of my amputee poems. This is just called amputee number 4. This one was written later though. Looking at a Marine with one arm gone and thinking he was pretty lucky was the day I realized I had been in Afghanistan too long. This one's called amputee number 6. The soldier asked me if I knew what happened to his boot. He never asked about his foot. This is called amputee number 8. In a VA writing workshop, the prompt was the word homecoming. With his remaining hand, the soldier wrote, "I will let you know when I get there." This one's called amputee number 9. The doctor says he is lucky to live in these times. They now have wheelchairs that can climb stairs. So I think I'm going to finish today and introduce my twin brother with just a poem called Someday. Try not to maybe end on a negative note here. This is just called Someday. Someday I will be the colorful flower for sale in the market, the smile on my daughter's face, the heart dotting the I in a love letter. Someday I will be the wind against your neck, the moon's reflection on the ocean, the engine of a leaving train. Someday I will be a lion in the dead of winter, a planet in deep space, a dinosaur at the bottom of the ocean. Someday I will be a sun salutation, a Zen koan, a Sumi painting. Someday I will be many things, maybe everything, and someday I will be something other than a memory of the war. Thanks, guys. I'm going to jump out of this seat and let my brother get into it. Mark and I are twins. He was a writer long before I was. Probably had a lot to do with how I got my feet underneath me doing it. If you've been around a long time, you might remember him. If not, please enjoy. This is Mark Borczon. Mark, jump on in. I'll jump on out.
All right. Afternoon. Today I'll be reading from this book called Whatever This Is, which came out Poets Hall Press 2018. This is my most eerie book. So as we're talking about where we are, this is my Pennsylvania experience. So I'm going to start with the title poem called Whatever This Is. Driving home from work, and I pass a run-over set of hawk's wings pasted to the center line by blood. The sadness of this has a taste that fills the front seat and sets a prayer on my lips that stays there for the rest of the drive. That night, I find those wings in my bed where my girlfriend sleeps, and I find them on the porch with the cats. I find them in the medicine cabinet next to a disposable razor. Driving back to work on a raining, moonless morning, draped in fog, I come up on the place where I know those wings will be waiting for me. I start to drive faster, hoping to get past them before I actually see them, thinking I might be able to break their spell. The headlights reach the wings first, and I see them at the feet of a turkey vulture standing over them in the dark. And this bird is so large that all I can do is stop the car in the middle of the road and wait for whatever this is to happen. Right. Let's see. Ooh, here's a little one. It's a poem called Debtor's Prison. The hummingbird darting in and out of the hole of an unstrung guitar drives my silence like a hearse as I tally the debts I owe that can't be paid with money. All right. Here's a poem from my 3 daughters. This is called The Way I Know My Own Daughters. There are birds in my heart with wings that thrum like Spanish guitars. Their appetites lead me to seek out flowers and rivers, and at night, any surface that reflects the moon. One bird sings to me about love and tells me her boy is as graceful as a dancing horse, tells me that music comes from the air all around him like a harmonica caught in a hurricane. The other bird sings only of sadness and shame. She makes her song from safety pins and the blades from a pencil sharpener. Her voice draws her own blood as she sings a death song to her father over the telephone. Without my birds, I would not know rivers or flowers or where to find the moon when it lays on the ground. And I would not know the music of love and pain the way I know my own daughters. All right. So here's a poem called Drinking with the One Who Will Kill Me. And this is an end of a relationship poem. There are eggshells at the bottom of a glass of water left on the sill in the moonlight. They move like they are lightly breathing. She lights a cigarette and ashes in the water glass. She looks like she'd be more at home in a murder ballad. A pair of my boots are in her closet, draped in cobwebs, gathering dust. In the beginning, she sang blues songs straight into my mouth while I touched her trembling skin as we kissed. She drank Australian wine, and she thought the moon was a painkiller she could crush and take up the nose with a straw. She just needed me to go get it for her, but I was too drunk and tired and divorced to get the ladder from the garage. And she didn't love anything enough to hold it steady if I did. Not me, not the drugs, not even the moon. Nothing but the pain she had and wanted gone. That she loved like her ex-husband, who spent all his free time in prison. So we drank and fought. As our blood came to the surface like dead fish in the bay, my tongue left my mouth to protest the temperature of her heart. And death rode a skinny nag into our kitchen one night and weighed our wanting on a balance scale and spared us both, just taking the thing we had between us. All right, this is a poem called Lost No Reward. I'm not really paying attention to time. Maybe I should.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. You've been at it for about 4 minutes.
All right, so this poem is called Lost No Reward. The unfolded Barlow knife lost at the pond became a severed finger that is not counted on when reckoning time on this earth. It becomes a gray fish, all bones and rough scales, riding the current in the deep middle of a running stream, feeding on nothing but duck feathers and bubbles full of air. It becomes a tattered flannel shirt wrapped around a litter of dead kittens buried in the garden behind a house in a hole dug by a 7-year-old boy. It becomes a loaded rifle rusting on the wall of a chicken coop, there since spring when the wildcat woke early and took all the birds, leaving behind only their blood and feet. It becomes the moon presiding over a killing frost, as full and white as each grape dying on the vine. It becomes the tongue of a songbird caught in a spider's web, quivering in silent fear. It becomes ash from the crematorium, falling like snow, sticking to a little girl's hair. It becomes the scar that is implicit in the knife given to a boy who is too young to hold one. All right. I think I'm just going to do one more. Where is this? I actually wrote this poem after a long binge of reading Gregory Corso, and I was in my 50s, and I remember reading Corso in my 20s. And quite frankly, in my 20s, I didn't get it. And I was reading him in my 50s, and I thought, well, I'll be damned. He's a poet for grown-ups. Like, I just didn't know it yet. So this is called Where I Live, There Is Not Much Room to Dance, and it's for Gregory Corso. The vainglorious fat man shadow boxes his kitchen silhouette and wraps his arms around his phantom lady to dance a waltz to the human song singing in his head. There is olive oil in his pan, and the air still smells like curry powder and tuna. So he dances thusly, as spiced as India, as vast as an ocean. His elbows and extremities knock pots to the floor as plates and water glasses shatter around him, bookshelves teeter, and volumes of poetry thud at his feet. His soul is athletic as Nijinsky, but his life has unleaned his meat. Work-muscled loneliness has weighed him like a fatted calf. But that unending song in his head, in his blood, makes him dance in the tiny cage of his poverty, in the melancholy of his tomorrow, in the limitations of his class. The vainglorious fat man holds his phantom lady and dances nightly like his life depends on it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good timing. You guys are very efficient. Erie, Pennsylvania. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Chuck. It is true that I said that Erie, Pennsylvania was the Riviera of Pennsylvania. But I say a lot of dumb things and forget about them. So it's nice to hear people bring them back up later on. I mean, Pennsylvania is a strange state. If you're from California, you got 10,000 miles of beach, and if New York, like we are in Long Island, you got beach everywhere. But Pennsylvania is just like it's a tiny little tailpipe that's attached to Lake Erie. Other than that, it's inland, just like New Hampshire. New Hampshire's only got a strip about the size of a football field, which is a beach. So, that beach is precious to them, apparently, and with good reason. Erie, really a football field away from Cleveland in one direction and Buffalo in the other, but a very fine community in its own right. Thank you for joining us. We now turn to a group of people brought together by Pramila Venkateswaran, who is, we know her as being one of the Suffolk County Poet Laureates in the room, Poets Laureate in the room, Robert Savino in the South, and from East Setauket, but she's originally from Mumbai, and she teaches here in New York, and has been prominent, both a lot of different activities, many different activities, but one that in particular I think people will be interested in is the Matwala, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing correctly, festival, South Asian festival. So Pramila is a good friend to everybody here that's from the New York area. We're well represented from New York today. So she has some good friends from the South Asian Diaspora who have joined us today. So I'm going to turn it over to Pramila so she can introduce herself and them. Take it away, Pramila.
Thank you so much, George, for this program, something that is so important for us in this current time of building bridges between different groups. I can't thank you enough. And it's so wonderful to see many people here that I recognize in the audience. And thank you to the poets who just read. And also thanks to Robert Savino for kicking this program off. I want to introduce Matwala, South Asian Diaspora Poets. It was founded by Usha Akelia. And since 2015, Usha Akelia and I have been co-directors of Matwala. And there are more than 30 poets as part of Matwala. And today, we have selected poets from Matwala who are going to be joining us. And so you can hear the variety that is Matwala. So we have poets from all different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds from South Asia, because South Asia is not a monolith, right? It has so many different countries within it. So you will see a representative sample of that variety today. I want to start us off with a poem that is representative of Long Island, and this is called The Lull Between Waves. Clouds press against the sky, testing its give. Where the gray cracks, a sliver of light touches white-winged acrobats above speeding surf. We worry about the clawed-out beaches, our homes inches away from a breaker rolling in to grind us in its maw. We pile sandbags, raise embankments. For now, we trace the shoreline. Look at winds lift gulls and drop them. A heron rises high into the air. With a crab in its beak, he lets it fall and swoops down to catch it. Misses, then picks it up from the sand. Flies up again, drops it and swoops down, misses. Over and over he repeats, reveling in his play. His compatriots witness his clowning. They know the measure of flight, how to allow being buffeted, unresisting, when to wait for calm. Just one second, okay. No, there was something that popped up in my, right on the screen. Okay, so we're going to start us off with Matwala's founder and co-director, Usha Akelia. Usha Akelia has currently written several books, and I will just mention you the titles. Her current books are I Will Not Bear You Sons, published by Spinifex Press, and then an anthology of Hyderabad poets called This Is How We Speak. And a few years ago, she published from Sahitya Academy a book called Waiting. All of these are just quite amazing, and the recent anthology is just hot off the press. She's authored 9 books of poetry, musical dramas, and she received her master's in creative writing from the University of Cambridge in the UK. And she was a creative ambassador for the city of Austin in 2019. So she's widely anthologized and has read in several poetry festivals all over the world. So welcome, Usha. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, thank you, Pramila. Thank you, Walt Whitman, Robert Savino, and all the poets here. I'm really honored to be here with all of you and looking forward to listening to all of you. Hopefully, I'll read 3 poems or maybe 4, depending on time. I'm mainly going to be reading from I Will Not Bear You Sons. And quite literally, this poem is titled Bridges, and I'm going to start with that. Unbridge the latitudes that arise from hate. Erase the deep grooved longitudes of an old earth. We are here, we do not come to stay. The earth is round to some, flat to some. Some come to do, some to undo. Some bridges are breaking from too much load. Let our steps be the flight of doves. Let our roads be incense. You and I are guests. This planet belongs to children. Where are the dinosaurs that lauded the earth? The builder of the pyramids, temples, and hanging gardens? What if I told you this earth is one bolt in a bridge whose masonry we cannot fathom? Have we not felt the unseen caissons holding this universe? The original destiny of the continents was a handshake. We come adrift in error and end in sky, earth, or water. Let us, like the Varkasi, grow bridges organically, root in earth, thwart gravity, rise majestically from heart to heart. Let us offer our children our wisdom, not our greed. Let us ask today, tomorrow, and every day, have I thawed at least one hard sinew in my heart? Am I lighter when I reach the other side? I'm going to read the second part of this book is dedicated to women from various cultures. So I thought that's very reflective of building bridges because our issues are not just our own, they're global. There's a sisterhood across the continent. So much of the book is devoted to other women. This one is called Unsought Pickings, and it's dedicated to the African-American slave women subjected to forced breeding. And I play on the metaphor of cotton and cotton picking. The years between us are bald gossypium, clawed realities, spinning yarns, chilling truth, not yarn. Mandeville knew this was a beast sprouting plant, our kutin, your cotton, their currency of carnage. I am told her pain is not yours to articulate, share, or voice. Still I seek her in the blurred spirals of the feminine self, my hand seeking her palm as a mirror. Perhaps she imagines snowflakes to pick, snowflakes the white gold falling from the sky in the north. Instead, her fingers stabbed cotton like wasps. The destiny of her people hewed her body to a sickle seeking earth's arms more than sky. Did she think I'll be picking cotton till the sun is a hole in the lament-soaked sky of waning blues? Perhaps. Did she seek answers in the liminal spaces of unsought pickings, blooming like soft cotton? Better the cotton picking than the wedding between the cows and the bulls. than the decree from dank walls, than the brooding air of muffled suffering, than the damp, wet cave of smothered pain, than fingers and pubescence prying her open like a can, than the unwilling rabbit of her private to his, better numbing labor than the pinioning of air pressing as a bale of hay, the straw filling her mouth, throat, lungs, her eyes sweeping the air like bats. Outside the sullen, crushed sympathy, like lifeless cotton with hardened seeds, ears dialed to deafness for survival. Better her hands furrowed and perforated, better her palms fissured with ancestral pain. Did the moments of anger pile on stone by stone to sift between unsought pickings, be a breeding woman than be fettered to a whipping post? This better than a back striped like a field, red petals of wealth blooming to the sun, a waste of dandelions around her drooping in shame, staining her memory's notebook of incoherent rage, a rage alive, breathing like cotton. And my next poem is called The Rug Weaver, and it's dedicated to Clara Sherman, who is a Native American rug weaver. And this piece has it has a poem and prose together. It's like a cross-genre form with a bit of storytelling. They called her the rug weaver and mother weaver, the one who wove the courage of her people. Grandmother Clara of the Hashtinchi spun her clan's memories by the lantern of day and the black tresses of night. From her fingers the wool flowed singing a lullaby. When she spun her rugs, the diamonds rose like pyramids on the loom, boldly triumphant. She was crone, so she could play a jaunty song on the harmonica, smiling like a young girl. This woman knew how to make melodies from the wind's secrets and the earth's rhythms. She knew the earth's language, and still man's soul was free as a song in the wind. There are names for almost everything we learn. The wool gliding through her fingers as a river held by loving banks. Her fingers go over and over smoothing bumps, as our minds go over memories till we are free of their abrasion. In deft motion, she cards the cloud-like wool, coaxed to long tendrils, vines of memory fluid in her sturdy fingers. Shell glass, face furrowed like a plowed land, the years have left ridges, but her eyes hold still like a meditating Buddha, and her smile is wide enough to encompass loss, the breadth of a plundered land. She spins Ganado red diamonds, pirouetting in the wind of time. Go easy, your arm, your hand feels it, knows it. Right here, the wool cries. Let us never stop loving the earth, river, wind, and sky. And our story continues. As she wove, she spoke about another weaver, the mother weaver of us all. How she wove the canopy of the sky, the waterfall of light, and the tunnel of night, then the golden glimmering stars and the whirling planets, how her loom glittered with the cosmos, and how finally she wove the destinies of men all through time, and how she wove with the fingers of love on a loom of eternity. When a rug was ready, she unstrung it and wove again from the beginning, going tap, tap, tap. So I don't know do I have time for one more, or is my time done?
Yeah, you can have one more short one.
Okay, just give me a second then. I'm looking for a short one. Okay, this is called Lotus Feet, and it's dedicated to women who have gone through foot binding. This is a ritual in the Far East, a very tortuous and painful ritual. Whatever the narrative, whatever the century, she shrinks. These are the feet of the sentence laid out bare, a tale to tell, tall feet between the crushed bones of centuries, between the tendons of tang, han, and song, Language is pompous, ballooning for a conquering mind. 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms ended in a song, so it seems. A mouthful of syllables jingling in the mouth, names of dynasties. Long, long lines of glory, phallic strides, and mountainous thrusts in art. This is one unbroken, uncrushed narrative, but something is shrinking imperceptibly. Beauty is in the eye of the masculine beholder, whose gaze says, make her small, small, smaller, till she cannot stand. So perfect, so beautiful, so dainty. Imagine moonbeams for feet and lotuses for footprints. A mere 4 inches, and the male ego erects in desire. I am a teapot. I hiss, I pour a bitter tea on my dainty feet. On my dainty feet, I hiss, I pour a bitter tea.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Usha.
Thank
That
you.
was wonderful. So, it always amazes me how you're able to weave like a whole breadth of history with imagery and and put so many layers into your poetry. Our next poet is Sophia Naz, and I'm so glad she's here with us. You'll get to see. I always think of Sophia's poetry as sort of a modern Emily Dickinson. She's able to use wordplay and very spare lines and get to the heart of many, many issues. One second, I'll just have to read the bio. Sophia Naz is a bilingual poet, artist, author, editor, translator. She was nominated twice to the Pushcart Prize in 2016 for creative nonfiction and 2018 for poetry. She has her work is in various anthologies and magazines. She has authored poetry collections, Peripheries, Pointillism, and Open Zero, and Shehnaz, a biography published by Penguin. Her 5th poetry collection, which is the most recent, is Bark Archipelago, and it has been published from Weavers Press, San Francisco. Welcome, Sophia.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone at the Walt Whitman Birthplace and Poetrybay. And Whitman famously said, others will enter these gates, and I draw a line from him and evoke him in this poem that I'm going to begin. Is from Bark Archipelago, my new collection, and it's called Undocumented. Unbecoming eye, tooth loose from aerial root, slow hanging consonant in the trafficked jam. Manahat, sound of self, startled reflex jerks open like a pickpocket. Tirchi, pirti, kirchi, kirki fly, moths out under radar of surveilled night. Casualties in wait. 2. $1,001 rolled up tight make the traffic stop nothing but a close shave with ice. Window to palm in the scheme of things, a hair to brush past, paper over paper, reds a synapse, Xeroxing silo, fog the lens, ache her back, her Bombay bow, go round the bend to stay, a trophy, sigh, low, darling, green card on board, off duty, eating language, standing up in the United Tastes. E pluribus umami, ramen, ramen. 3. Forgive me if I mix up cartographies, Black Thursday, White Friday, month to mouth lease. February, New York City, in the muddle of walk, don't walk, I'm lost, looking for the amalthas blooming at Humayun's tomb. 4. At the traffic signal, hallucinating an 8-armed goddess Lakshmi. Atop her steel torso, the dots come to a head, yellow, red, and green bindis. No, my religion is not Hindi. Look closely and you will see. Photo negative elephants of prosperity. We sleep 4 under the table in basement slum. I was a doctor once. Suture comes down from sutra. I sew my future ghosts back. Handed this. So the next poem is called All the Water in the World. Actually, no, I'm going to read Storm first. Sorry, it's also from my new book, Storm. At 3 a.m., unable to bear the pain any longer, I called 911. At 3:25, the paramedics wheel a miscarriage down, gurney to ambulance in the dark, clear December night, alive with shooting stars. We are only tenants in the house of beauty, a dreadlocked poet said, passing out leaflets on Telegraph Avenue. 2 hours later, sheets soaked in blood, the nurse injects morphine. A faint blur leaves the door ajar. I see your pregnant silhouette moments before the eclampsia hits, the random doctor's visit that saves your life. And here I am in bed with death, dark, red, wet, clot, body full of body turning rot. Only smell ripens this way, making objects strange. Papaya flesh, both knife and womb, seeds turning to brittle peppercorns. I taste the spoon in your mouth before I was born. Vertiginous cut, transverse splay. Imagine fishing out a baby and leaving a sea marooned. I used to play with your belly's many holes, stick little fingers in their hollow cores. A knock is all it takes to come and go. A storm in between the cup and lip, as the saying goes. So this is called Wait. When my water broke, it had no color, only heart race, a foreign sensation weighing anchor to plant biology in geography, settling underneath flux. Pacific note, sweet spot, where you nest even now, taller by a head. Sunflower. I watch the west go downed in twin moons of your eyes. My eyes, dark circles, bead pain, staking claim to each sharp knell, glassed in the daily feed. The sum, thing I am trying to pin topmost. Mind your man and tend a bean to grow and toe that line. Append yellow tape, white silo, flashing red, wearing blue, weight that comes to a head. Okay, and finally, I will read All the Water in the World. And so just like water has a current and it has an undercurrent. So I will be reading in two registers to indicate these two phenomenon of water. All the water in the world, about 13 billion, eons old water of Tethys and new womb breaking. A crack, thin as razor wire, ran from the lip of the basin to its bottom, stray drops from her. Turbid and limping and frozen and gushing, Niagara and Erie and Indus and Atlantic and speaking. Of the basin to its bottom, stray drops from her, skin that did not sink, congregated there. Of oceans anonymous, numinous snow, flakes falling silently as hair grazing ground. Skin that did not sink, congregated there, an immigrant moss, water, ate air. Still's secrets of the drowned, undoing time, abiding in the tides, march of middle passages. An immigrant moss, water, ate air, verdigris to hide copper. Tsunamis of history whose rust still stains ink the color of dried blood, draw. Verdigris to hide copper, one hand a relic, another a river. Blood that runs like water, cries for mother, a clot, a stop to the shot in the back, in the dark, in the bed. One hand a relic, another a river. Lakes here and twin seas, see. The madness of no return belongs to the desert. I've pinned my hopes on the old and young flood. Lakes here and twin seas, see. A crack, thin as razor wire, ran from the lip. The whole damned thing, come, swell current, swift straws of hands to skies, bring on the rain. Thank you. I think that's good enough for me. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Sophia. That was wonderful. It's just especially the last one, I was enjoying the rhythm of it. And now we come to our third poet, Indran Amirthanayagam. He's an award-winning poet, publisher, translator, YouTube host. He hosts Poetry Channel and diplomat. He's published 22 books and writes in French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Haitian, and of course, English. Welcome, Indran.
Thank you so much, Pramila. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Usha, and you for running Mcgowan and bringing it to the world, and to all the poets gathered today. I love this idea of bringing communities together from all across the country and the world. I'm going to read a few poems first from this book, The Splintered Face, Tsunami Poems, which was published by Hanging Loose Press, which keeps all its books in print, so you can find it. Words and Orchids. We had gone for a sea bath and had just sat down to eat mangoes and pittu, a spicy pol sambal. My husband was thrilled with home food and sea air, the orchids the waiter arranged elaborately on our table. I wanted the flowers moved, because they blocked my view of the sea. But my husband insisted. He said the waiter had taken such trouble. And in the States, how often would we eat mangoes by an ocean framed with orchids? Those were his last words. When the first wave rode over us, I held on to a palm tree. Then as the water receded, ran and ran uphill. Met our friends there, but my husband stayed behind. I do not have his body, just these words about flowers, his grin as he sucked mangoes with his hands. Borders. Let's not speak of countries or homelands. There's an ocean and beach full of bodies, and a sea unaware of human calamity. Moon bright in some lover's eye, sparrows the morning after return to dance. Let's pick up the dead now, all the peace agreements, insurance papers. Let's walk across the borders now. This idea of walking across the borders or crossing borders or eliminating borders has been an obsession of mine for a long time, and it's easy to be obsessed by it, but there are people who actually try to cross borders and fail or succeed, and there are those who try to stop the border crosses. Crossing the borders between languages is another way to cross borders, always trying to keep the one step ahead of the law or the outlaw. There's a poem in my book, The Migrant States, which I'd like to share. It's a book that has a lot to do with Walt Whitman, actually. There's a dialogue with Whitman throughout this book, and in a series of poems. But so what I will read to you, though, is a poem which you can find easily. It's called The Migrant's Reply. We've been running for so long, we're tired. We want to rest. We don't want to wake up tomorrow and pack our bags. We've gone 10,000 miles. We've boarded a rowboat, tugboat, bus, freight train. We have a cell phone and some bread. Our eyes are dry. Our breath needs washing. What next? You're putting up a wall on your southern flank. What an irony. The country that accepts refugees does not want us. We qualify. We have scars, and our host governments hunted, at least some of us. The rest fled in fear. Gangs do not spare even the children. White vans took away our uncles, our cousins. Do you think they've been made into plowshares? Aye, what are you saying? Too easy to wear our hearts in these words, in slings on our faces, furrowed, perplexed. What happened to kindness to strangers? Why do we have to be herded like prisoners held in a holding camp? We are human beings, and like you in safer countries, we have the same obligation to save ourselves and our children. Oh, the children, look at them. Give them food and school and a new set of clothes. Give them a chance. Whether you are red or blue, the eye of the hurricane does not discriminate. We are your tumbling weeds, hurling cars, flooding banks, and we are diggers of the dikes. We can teach you so many languages and visions. You would learn so much. You would never, ever say, lock us up. And then, thank you. The book is called The Migrant States, and came out during the pandemic, and but it's circulating in these migrant states. I'll finish with my latest book, 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant, which was also it was actually written during the pandemic and during the campaign against the orange-haired tyrant. And I'll read this poem just to give you an idea of where the migrant is now in in this particular part of America. Of course, America is a very vast space from Tierra del Fuego up to Canada, isn't it? Address beyond Gettysburg. We're not going to stop. We have already started to walk, to run, our legs stretching, striding. The wind is behind us, blowing our hair and pushing us ahead. Every day, every hour, every minute fills us with enormous adrenaline, enormous hope. There are only so many insults the brain and heart can take before they begin to fight back. But with guidance from the village elder, to dilute the poison barb with herbs and prayers, to get the Russians on the back foot, to invite Chinese to return to business, to let ordinary Iranians drink coffee in peace. But I'm not a mere internationalist. No, my friends, I'm running with Iowa farmers, former steel workers of Bethlehem, chicken pickers of Purdue plants in Tennessee. I'm not satisfied with the way things are in 50 states and all the dependencies. In Puerto Rico, I will not ignore people after they suffer hurricanes twice. In New Orleans and the Bayou, I'm not going to stop at building a levee. I will build parishes back with the faith that sustains me and them, that we will see a promised land, that we can arrive there together, one nation under God. And I've only just begun, just begun. Give me your stories from every community, every state house. We are going to talk among ourselves, one great family conversation around the fireplace, the TV, the radio, the computer, the phone. We're going to go back towards building that great society. Do you remember the dream deferred? Langston Hughes will be on my night table. Congressman Lewis will dance in my dreams as he did in Congress. Blue dog Democrats will have their say at the table, and we will listen to reasonable arguments from the other aisle. What is reasonable? That we spend the budget to get people back to work in good health and with hope. That we make peace with our friends again, and we trust but verify our enemies. I've probably run out of time, but if I haven't, or if I have, I can stop there. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Indran. That was just the right place to stop.
Great.
That was a powerful poem. I really applaud you for the breadth that you bring to your reading. I would like to end our Matwala segment with this short poem, and it is about building bridges, and it's called "Is This Love That Stone-Clad Treaties Cannot Sunder?" Behind her Madras headscarf and his hat framing it above, her fingers claw the wall to rise higher to lock her lips with his. The couple just inches apart, the concrete rising between them. An open sky above, birds migrating. Thank you very much.
Very nice. Thank you, Pramila. Thank you so much for bringing your friends and colleagues from Matwala today. Usha, Sophia, Indran, wonderful work, every one of you. Thank you so much. There's a world for us all to learn about in many places, especially South Asia. So it's a great opening. I love this series because it opens my eyes every time we bring a new group of people together. What I learn about their concerns and their talents and the artistry they bring to bear in expressing themselves. So thank you. We've now heard from Erie, Pennsylvania, and from the South Asian Diaspora. We will now turn to St. Louis, place I had the pleasure of being able to read in one time in the Maplewood section, in a bookstore in the Maplewood section of St. Louis, with John Dorsey and Jeanette Powers, Kansas City. She was there as well. And Brett was there. Brett's everywhere in St. Louis. I had like 12 hours to hang out and see what I could find out about St. Louis between I think I was in New Mexico before that, and I was on my way back up to Chicago or something like that. And I had rented a car, so managed to get up and see Chuck Berry's house and Delmar Street, Delmar Avenue, which divides the haves from the have-nots in a lot of ways in St. Louis, and the statue of Chuck Berry there, father of rock and roll. One place that'll be someplace that people from New York will appreciate, home and birthplace of Yogi Berra and Joe Garagiola Sr., two outspoken, famous New York City type baseball players, but they have their homes in the Hill, which is the Italian neighborhood in St. Louis, and so much more. And before the show, we had a chance, Brett and I, to talk a little bit about the New Orleans St. Louis connection, because unlike New York or California, which we have a beach or a coastline, the coastline of the Mississippi, Missouri River Valley extends all the way from Hibbing, Minnesota, down to New Orleans, and in many directions, Cincinnati and Chicago and St. Louis and just Evanston, Indiana. It's just incredible the connection between these communities in the middle portion of the United States, the Mississippi Basin. So I did have a chance to meet one of the two people that he has with us today. This will be my first time with the second, but I know that it's a fine community of poets in St. Louis, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy as much as I did the opportunity to learn about their work. Please welcome Brett Underwood.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you, George, and wow, what an honor to hear you all read today. I have got a couple books out. George said I'm everywhere. I used to be a promoter, a lot more of a promoter, and a bartender, and all kinds of other stuff. And I promoted a event called Day of the Dead Beats for a while, which was a beat poetry event that happened on Day of the Dead. We did that for many years. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of the way after I read a little bit. I've got two books out on Spartan Press out of Kansas City / Bell, Missouri. You can judge the books by the cover if you want. So I'm going to get to work. And I already missed the page. Here we go. So this one's called Ready for Liftoff. It was written for an event that the Herding Cats Collective did. I'll leave it at that. Take your weight off, strap your wings on. Gotta get away from you cretins, flying higher and higher, while faceless slaves feed the beast, row, slaughter, cook, and serve the feast. Sew the walkabout threads, strip from wheels, spin willy-nilly wobbly heels, shuffle feet, scuttle butt, talking the talk, walking the walk, clod-kicking nomads, riddling cliches, in piecemeal economic class majority of days. Knotting and tangling, streaming and steaming, angels falling in teams, coaxing hope for men and children, suffering guilt and schemes for flavored vodka to put out the flames. Faceless and frenzied crowds, not their piglets for a tit, sweet silk web of perks, splinters in their lips. It's a wooden cow eating the genius grass of now, leisurely gone mechanical, madness habit, horses clip-clopping through the sky, hot on the trail of a giant carrot, bobbing on the end of a string, tied to a stick unseen. Burning spear becomes the sun. Sorry, pardon me, sodomy, crying in reality, steeping in normality. Buttheads are bound to butt heads that buy shit, bite shits. Bites hit and heights hit won't give the satisfaction of the real tail hit. You chop down peasantries if you can't get no pleasantries. You a pissant, pissed off, beaten down, disintegratefully muttering, Icarus is sick of us clowns. And the sin of pomegranate, sultans of Homer, keeping her down under, while up top, behemoth violent women with bushels and bushels of rags and frenetic mongrels dropped from hot snatches to scamper about floors of life because they were lonely. Heel, scream, bitch, moan, retort cranked to 9. The locked down boombox blares, soft rock soma static, statistician death. Equation of chaos avoidance. See its nonsense? Others anguish sitting in the John Wilkes booth with the Donner Party and no gold. Sorry, utter ranting of wish-wash bladder, of too much peroxide, silicone and the glide, and the kind of salvation they sell on late-night television. Faces cracked and exploding, but you tip a little extra so the waitress can shoot it between her toes tonight. Gotta get high tonight, out of sight, set a course for the midnight light. Window pane souls squeegee a play of rage, turned to stone in its chemical cage. Jaws yawning uncertainty, future doom cult and dread circle spirits, their wagons around teepees. Snap and rage against bludgeoning the right. Clothes tumble and the drier thoughts fall and sink, scattered and disconnected, but all feeling the same heat. Stop the car, I'm getting out, I can't take it, hey, look out. There's something coming and there's nothing you can do about it. What's wrong with, that's okay, he ain't got long to go, so we'll forgive him. Something spontaneous, possibly dangerous, something precarious, probably not legal, something fun, eventually lethal, but we probably won't be out that long. Ride it on a glide like that, let it prove its groove, slow down ancient mellow day and play it to the moon. And now we hurtle through the stars. The president says we're going to Mars, just to get away from this rubbish heap, flying higher and higher until we drown in melted glaciers. Another failed attempt at escape from Cretans and their addiction to the glug glug. I didn't mean to be derogatory towards the Cretans, but this event was held in the old post office square in downtown St. Louis, and it has these lamps above it that are indicative of Icarus wings. So that's where I took off from there. This one's called Fixes Like the Angel of Hell. Delegating the pencil to the crapper, the tweets and hawks took over, obliterating justice in favor of the correct. There were no proofreaders and spell checkers, and the pawns thought they could hump kings, and that's ridiculous. And they ran stop signs, and that was fun, and they popped locks and snapped shots and posed much. But it made them obvious, and they ended in the cages and were convinced that they were in the cages, and they didn't get out, they didn't get out, and they didn't get off. But they could have, if the concentration had been more like the truth. My memory of you looking out the window at the beauty and walking off into the sunset. Then we got somewhere like the truth, and there was hot chicken for dinner and sleep and rest, the truth that only took patience. Oh yeah, so I've spent some time in bars. I wrote this one in a bar. Dusk at the whiskey bar. That's someplace you should go if you're in St. Louis again, the whiskey bar. It's great, down on Cherokee Street. Dusk at the whiskey bar. Awaiting the yogi and the cleansing cloud of smoke. In 10 minutes, no one will remember this. Look around, death and sore tits blowing around the door and window frames. But the dingbats meet it with hot air and a collective chortle and a rehashing of falsities. Victory is anyone's guess. The scorecards are a mess at this point since the tweaker pinch ran for the ogre. A taxi runs a red. On a dirty plate, in the bottom half of the 8th, grenades tossed from the street food stands taste like pineapple. No need for a fork. Snipers have the skulls in their sights. They're ready to strike with every 4th ball. The dorks do the wave and the umpires fart in the breeze. The medicine men are buried in popcorn as the cavalry approaches to rub out the village All intelligence is run through a universe where a fly sits atop a water drop on the next table. In 10 minutes, no one will remember. This one hasn't been published. I think I'm going to have to send it up. Muted wisdom. In the pre-dawn morning dark, the call of the birds had enraged him. He rolled out of the hammock and put his foot in his back pocket, fell face first into the stars that contained last night's fire. The bug bites were portals from the wild to gather signs, messages, signals, and wisdom from the wind, the critters, the creepy crawlies, and the unheard, those shut out of the media and board meetings. Some of the cries of the night are muted, but the helicopters have eyes, and there is blood seeping into the roots. Ants are there to gather and interpret intel. The same willful ignorance that ignores the medicine man put their antennae music on mute. And I'm going to leave lots of time for other people because I can't wait to hear Jim and Stefene. Empathy much? Do you yearn in the melody of a suicide moon or under the sun on a sacred mound with oblivious tourist? One must yearn to do the trick after guitars and sunburn. After the gristle from the burger is washed down by the jug of wine, after one leaves and before the heartache is diminished, when there is time to give the world a little goosey-goosey, wanting is not enough. Lust is too much under the volcanic ash. Need. Well, there's that. Shit. Reboot. Did you even boot? Need is desperate, the root of dire situations. Corners crammed with the dispossessed. Some people are not worried about immigrants. They are on fire or under fire and fleeing the fuck from flames. They got a bunch of words for yearn. What will you do when they look in your window? Where do they go? That'll be it for me for now. Next up, and like I said, we're sorry to miss Dr. Aaron Bells. And we're thinking of his family and everything. Jim and I are actually sitting in front of his laptop, and Jim came over for technical advice because I haven't done Zoom reading since, and my laptop just buzzes like it's no tomorrow. So this guy is Jim Mcgowan. Jim prefers to create art when he isn't stuck at his day job. He dabbles in painting, video, graphic art, and writing, and some of his works have been published in Chance Operations, U City Review, Rusty Truck, Thimble Literary Magazine, and the Gasconade Review. He is the author of several chapbooks and Murmuration, a book of poems published in 2018 by Barton Press. He resides with his family and 2 cats in St. Louis, Missouri. Here he is, Jim Mcgowan.
Hello, everybody. It's weird watching people clap and not hear anything. Yeah, it's great to be here. Sorry not to hear Aaron read today. He's a good friend and a fantastic poet, but stuff happens, and here I am. I'm going to read one from my book, Murmuration, and then a couple from a forthcoming book that I've been working too long on that I think is going to be called Muse Mutations. This is called, can you guys all hear me all right? Okay, this is called Fingers Haunted by Dead Poets for Lorca. Phantoms always gather at the carousel of drinking eyes to keep watch as if moonlight or sunlight will render impotent the steady momentum of dominion absolutism. While nearby Mephistopheles' hounds always gather, lurking and waiting with ears kept sharp like blades temporarily bereft of blood. And they will listen for the sound of too much laughter, and they will listen so that the sea can continue to leak its saline dream into the mockery of battlefield mud, with only the small mercy of softening it up for the jaws of the dead. Another poet found dragging words like wounds carved into the faces of all the stopped clocks, gut springs spilled and belly unwound, gathered and burned by a brutal and servile inferno, a commandment of blind bullets kissing shut all, or the defiance of all the lips, stuffing silent the defiance of all the throats. And so many nights I'm a thirsty eye, wandering without sleep, and fingers haunted by dead poets, clawing at a too heavy blanket of scribbles, thinking beyond the sounds of rifles, thinking beyond the stillness thereafter, to the arriving illumination against the propaganda that marches counterclockwise to it. Because your grave is my grave, a secret still kept by the shade of some unwilling tree. Because your voice is my voice, hidden away by the undeserved, planted in like company within the unleavened dirt, that for the sake of the authentic must be continually chewed and then spat out in a sad form of resurrection. And I'm going to read, I apologize for reading off my phone, but my printer is broken, so bear with me here. Like I said, these are going to be in an upcoming book I've been working on. This one is called The Silenus in Silent Sleeps. To see you is to have two dreams, aspirations in the blood, no more strangers to spit at where your body is split, a polished torso demure beneath the oeuvre of a carved marble shift. No monster trace of the pink nymph slash, the splinter in the eye blinks out, a small succulent demise, breaching lupine backs, kept serpentine strangled, leapt waning into the bliss of chamomile blindness. Alas, to sense only the wild pheromones filtered, wilting through winding larynx, a danger to rebuff the lungs from the tense evening climax. A dead end in the innermost held breath pauses to be bitten close with tilted axis, chose the coarser course, up and down until water looks just like its own shape in mouthfuls and puddles, and dreamless floods the loins, a language lapping at its own odd transit, split through with sweet talk and push of the will flowing against the fast, unbroken stone, where the heart is a distance so vast that passing through it is to finally know you will drop dead somewhere along the way. And this is called To Drown in the Fountain of Arethusa. Steps routed around a jetty will show their burden by sinking. Just because something flows from a footprint doesn't mean it will empty discernible patterns back into understandable tides. A goodbye black abstinence, the dense tangle of seabirds in your hair, falling into a yawing shadow, a fugue injured castaway in your eyes' waterless reflection. I storm in circles, a lachrymose vortex. I lose my breath against someone else's dowsing. I bottle a message about never finding the stopper. My morning floods with undercurrents, my make-believe cloudburst, beneath which I face my own vicious deep in dangers like insomnia. A night that rides against your surge, hiding in the remote mockery of inlets. A night the sound of abandoned wood. A night of something as luminous as the sea is archaic. A night where hope cannot reach the air. The noise of the water too deep to waste eyelids, the muddy knuckle shore, the humid scent of sobbing, darkening without all your whirlpools. You wade out slowly to your waist, then over your head. You untangle in the black silence. You are not thirsty. The shade vapors and rumor makes sense around you in ripples. Bitterly, you hold your breath, dissolve into shrouds, and let the waters suffer. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. And look
Welcome,
what,
Brett.
look what I got hanging on my wall. You can't see it very well through there. Uh-oh. It's a painting of William Burroughs on a big canvas that he did for Day of the Deadbeats. Pardon me, the cord came out of the computer. We're believe it or not, we're not drinking. Up next, Stefene Russell. We miss her. She's great. She'll be back. I'm going to leave out the bio's a little out of date because we've been planning this reading for a while. So she was, before moving to New Orleans, a food reporter for the Salt Lake Tribune. But before that, her long career in St. Not long career. She had a career in St. Louis. She is the former culture editor for St. Louis Magazine and was the 2018 poet in residence at Wellmeyer Sculpture Park. Her books include Inferna, 2013, Intagliata Press, The Possum Codex, incredible book, 2015, Otis Nebula, and another incredible book, 47 Incantatory Essays on Spartan Press, 2019. I will leave it up to you, Stefene, to read the Instagram. I'm not sure what this says. It says Stefene7. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. Please welcome. Oh, and Stefene, I have to say, I wasn't doing much writing outside of, I was doing a radio show, and Stefene and Thomas Crone and another writer here in St. Louis started a website called 52ndcity.com. It's a reference to St. Louis used to be the 4th largest city in St. Louis. And these days it's not anymore. So, and you can still find that on online, 52nd.com. They did print, press, and all this other stuff. So Stefene is reading from New Orleans, but she's got deep St. Louis roots. Please welcome Stefene Russell.
Thanks, Brett.
Hi, Steph.
I think I still have dual citizenship because we've only been here since December, so we're definitely not New Orleanians yet, right? That's going to take like 10 years. So I'm still a St. Louis person, I suppose. Thanks so much to George for the invitation and also doing all the footwork of putting this together. I know it's not a small thing, and it's been so lovely to hear all of you read. I saw people swapping emails and websites and stuff. Maybe we can get a transcript of the chat. I'd love to stay in touch with everybody, and I would really, really love to read more of your work. It's been a really lovely, morning into afternoon here in New Orleans. So I'll just jump in because I have 3 poems. This first one is from the book Brett referenced, 47 Incantatory Essays, and they're all just numbered. So this is the 31st incantatory essay, and you'll see why I'm reading it after I read it. Walt Whitman wrote poems about bridges, trains, and telegraph lines in tribute to his favorite brother, Jeff, who worked as a civil engineer and spent nearly his whole career in St. Louis. In 1867, Jeff left Brooklyn and became our superintendent of waterworks. He didn't design the Bissell Street water tower, a myth perpetuated by Walt in Jeff's bragged up obituary, but he did oversee the construction of a good deal of the city's early water infrastructure. Jeff was friends with James Eads, as well as Baden-born engineer Henry Flad, who he met up often at the beer garden. Maybe that's because as water guys, they knew it was safer to drink beer, not water, because cholera was still a thing. Or maybe they were just drowning sorrows. Jeff had plenty. 3 years earlier, he lost his wife, Maddie, to throat cancer at only 37. A few months later, his mother died. All the while, Walt lay paralyzed in a bed after a stroke. He recovered almost miraculously. He outlived his much younger sibling, Jeff, after all, and in 1879 came to St. Louis to visit and spend a month with Jeff in a now demolished house on Pine Street. He doted on his nieces, Jessie and Hattie, short for Manhattan. She was named after her uncle's famous poem, visited several kindergartens and did not discourage the impression he was Santa Claus. He obsessively visited the river and Eads Bridge. In all, he proclaimed St. Louis splendid. But as he wrote his sister Lou, that there are just two things here you and I would never get used to and would spoil all. That is, the air you breathe is always tainted with coal smoke and pungent gas, and a perpetual dust and smut and little black motes that forever smut your clothes and hands and face all the time, night and day. So you see, there are always some bad points, even to the greatest and best. But the folks here don't seem to mind it or think it is anything. The air is much more breathable in St. Louis now. And if you haven't seen it, all of Walt Whitman's letters are online and they're quite wonderful to read. I think the whole lot of there was an excerpt from those letters in that piece. So this is another little prose poem that appeared on hilo.com last year, and it's after Jack Spicer. It's called "And I Would Think That We Will Probably Always Be Crystal Sets at Best." Not a generator, but a collector of electrons, a cathode ray tube, an ear trumpet, maybe an oscillator or a porcelain insulator. On days you feel fancy, a ghost box. Jack Spicer said Martians sent him poems. Also a manta ray swimming through the hoops of Aquaman's marine telepathy. What's the surmise here? Thoughts moving through water cast a shadow. Other thoughts fall through the violet ether, glint by glint. Those thoughts don't cast shadows. The poet is a radio, but just a crystal set at best. An alligator clip, a cat's whisker detector, some germanium for the diode, shiny as foil, or some galena, shiny too, cubic in structure, full of lead. Quartz, if you like things stable. The waves, never not there. Put the wire to the crystal, a booming cascade of voices, a roll of gold fabric unspooling for centuries. What's sharp enough to cut off a sample square? No scissors you own. Put the wire to the diode, but not for long. Voices corrode, too much noise. The woolly voices crackling on the danger scanner. Too many voices that say, I'm Bob, or get out of here, or help, or a fragment of song lyric from before the war during a radio sweep. Martians or Rauda voices or fans of the purple space friend. Don't trust an angel that says its name is Doug. Don't trust an angel with a last name. Pick up this word or that word, a whole sentence, and write it on your arm. The vocabulary may glow silver, it may be cubic in structure, it may be full of lead. Wear industrial gloves to handle it, but it defeats the purpose. You'll lose some eyesight, you'll burn your eardrums. Vibrating crystal, sending purple and dull silver voices pulsing through a wire. Through headphones, no other way to hear it, right into your head. The voices are a substance, a condensation, an inversion, blue smoke curling over magma. They rush. They speak in a cadence forced upon them by the lattice-like structure of what some call the beyond. They must speak quickly in a rhythm forced upon them. Fast talkers, forced to speak Esperanto telegram, bricolaging the AM dial. Baseball, weather, mortgages, power riffs, morning hosts, the emergency broadcast service, breaking straight from fissures in the crystals. What a relief, not your fault. Can't blame the circuit. Vocabulary or ethereomania. Try to keep up, try not to get lost, and yet you will get lost. So I was just gonna read one more. This is a long, skinny poem. It's called In the Night House. And there's a little epigraph from the poet Peter Gizzi, who I really love. It's from his poem, A Winding Sheet for Summer. All the stars are here that belong to whatever was speaking. I built my life out of what was left of me. Let's skip most of this boring story. Just say it starts the day I was too old, but I wasn't old. Nurse, car, park, basement, river, want, partner, host, can't. He brought her soup in a hotel room on his birthday. Wished me dead in a letter, but I was a good partner, he said. Trail of bent nails and bloody gauze and whatever, he said. Ring from a kiosk in the mall, next to the rhinestone hats and the sugar gliders. Spit and a promise and a shine, throwing it all in the river. Oozing from a crack in the drywall, Vantablack chowing down last bits of light thrown by broken glass stars. A voice said, put that in your pipe and smoke it. I had no pipe. I walked to 7-Eleven at 11 p.m., humid summer night, revving crickets, dark park, rushes of trees and bushes, shapes and shapes, clean white square of home base glowing from the diamond, and panes of light, neighbors blind in the midst of rituals, packing lunches, skipping channels, boozing, fighting, clicking coupons to print. At the counter, shy to buy just a pipe, as if I aspire to be Mary Bonnie or Lady Popeye. No makeup, track shorts, black stubble on bruised shins, a cola, a lighter, a comb, jumble of stuff to cover my plan to smoke the tar right out of the cosmos, smoke it right down to the stars. W-A-W, the letter W, Vav with a dot on top. Oh, hook, oh, good shepherd's crook. Oh, Kansas, oh, Missouri, Arkansas and Oklahoma, and the Fury with a syringe on top. Hopscotch the Sephirat. Throw down a broken dog's tooth in lieu of hoppy-taw. The gymnast chalks her palms, her calloused soul stained blue. Jump roping with rainbows in the foggy church. And my face, and my face, and my face, it's like this badly made thing dropped on a kitchen floor. Just a lady sighing herself into fairy book to be little orphan Annie or Harriet the Spy. Rude wounds, half-baked pancakes, your sons notice a lot. On the back porch at dawn, you realize squirrels make a definite noise when they run on power lines, and the chirp of a robin is cheery in the morning, but creepy after dusk. A dream of two well-known witches. We played a board game without a point. All you did was view the world through your choice of 3 filters, red, yellow, blue, and you chose blue. Orbison lenses, eyes shaded, spying Orions, red raw meat in your clean sink, the molding of drywall gone damp well, the demon's meat cute. Anoint the broom, pulp of cardoon, wine of cardui, blink sun of solar minimum. Go, go with your old math and your antique knees, white-livered widow. Go to the witch-midden, fever mistress. O little altar in my spleen warmed with white hot coals, a forever stamp, the screen of a spy watch, to see the one I did love in profile, stoic, Roman coin, curves of chin and nose and curls, trap it in amber, do another shot at the burled oak bar, dream of skiing snow-hearted snow bunny, straight edge glitter zha-zha in perfect flight off the mountain's edge, tipped skis in an X, I fly, racing, alpine air, angel and nanny goat both, in my red velvet coat trimmed with marabou and eyelash lace, little farce. Oh, none of that's true. Am I too humble and too smart for you, for you? Thank you.
Right, okay. We have now the people from St. Louis and one of them from now from New Orleans to thank for that third portion. Brett Underwood put together this group at the last minute. Brought in Jim Mcgowan, thank you for that. And Stefene Russell, it's finally good to finally hear your voice, Stefene. This is the whole show. Actually, we've heard from Erie, Pennsylvania, from the South Asian Diaspora, from St. Louis. Seen some very interesting interconnections. A book for Indran made by Bob Borczon of Hanging Loose Press in Brooklyn, dearly departed friend of all of ours. the interconnections are strong. So I encourage you to continue to pursue that as you have in the chat room. The second season of this program, Poets Building Bridges, started in November with Boricua poets, Costa Rican poets, and some brevitas poems from the poets in New York City. We've proceeded through San Luis Obispo. We had some friends in Rutherford, New Jersey, the home from William Carlos Williams, and straight on through month by month by month. Next month, we'll have some poets from LA's Beyond Baroque. Afrik McGlinchey, who you may recall having visited the Walt Whitman Birthplace from Ireland, will be bringing some Irish poets in. And Paul Kanicki, who many of you know in Dallas, Texas, will be bringing in some poets as well. That's May 6th. And June 10th, we'll conclude with John Burroughs from Cleveland, Ian Griffiths from Wales, although he's actually from Suffolk, England, and Gloria Mindock will be joining us with some friends from Savannah Barva Press at Somerville, Massachusetts. So as you can see, we're having a great series, and I'm glad that you could make it as special as you did here in the 1 hour and 42 minutes, very efficiently, I might add, that you did that. I'll just leave you with this one thought about Chuck Berry, since since we had a conversation about St. Louis and Chuck Berry. I heard recently Chuck Berry interviewed, and he talked today. He was being interviewed. The interviewer asked him why he didn't play the blues. Chuck Berry grew up in what was at that point in time a fairly middle-class home in St. Louis, said he just did not experience the kind of hunger and sense of deprivation that he felt was necessary to play the blues. So instead of that, he invented rock and roll. I think that's a lesson to all of us to go to our roots and find out what we have that are in our roots, but not to stop there, but to take what we've had given to us, be honest and true to it, and to grow and build from that to some new place. Maybe somebody in this room today will be the next inventor of something as big and as wonderful as rock and roll. But in the meantime, we can all have fun writing poetry and sharing. So I want to thank you all for doing that with us today.